76 Fluency Part 2 featuring Stephen Groner.
Hello, everyone. We're back with another episode of SLP's Wine and Cheese. I'm Deb.
And I'm Maria.
And here's our podcast.
For the Rockin' SLP. So I'm sitting in this super duper comfy chair.
Yeah.
And there is definitely no core engagement.
No.
And I'm feeling slumped over.
I hate this chair.
Yep.
I want it out of my house.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit up, engage my core.
Good.
So we can talk about fluency. Yes. So this is part 2 of a 3-part series.
Yes.
And we have a great interview with an expert in the field, Stephen Groner. But before we go into what you should do with your clients with fluency disorders, we want to talk about goals to write, right?
Oh, I did not prepare for fluency. I figured we were doing that. I was going to do just a random.
Oh, well, I wrote a goal. So
yeah, like I have a goal, but I'm not going to, it's not fluency.
Oh, okay. I wrote a fluency goal.
All right, good. Let's hear it.
So I might as well go first.
Yeah.
So client will use easy phonatory onset to produce 5 to 6 word sentences with visual supports. Because I'm assuming, if you're at the longer phrase level or sentence level, there still needs some kind of visual support to, easy onset, keep the phonation going. I don't know if that's like the exact correct term, but it's where you want to keep them, their vocal folds continuously vibrating, right?
Right.
Yes. So I was even thinking of like Battleship. Do you have someone on A6? A phrase like that,
right.
to keep them going. And I really like Battleship. It's definitely a throwback to the 90s. We're showing our age here. But I think it's great because you have that consistent, do you have someone on blank? Then the person responds. It's a great time for them to relax, engage in the diaphragmatic breathing, use the core support. For example, don't have a chair like this, like a lounge chair that I'm sitting on. And then it gives you to, say, that's a hit, that's a miss, and then to reverse it. The client said, that's a hit, that's a miss. I like games where there's a consistent pattern of responding and answering and keeping the phrase the same so you could really target the strategy that you want the client to use. If they're at that stage of therapy, of course.
Yes.
So that's a good goal. I think that's a goal that I would use, and that's something I have personally done before, and it went well. Kids like Battleship. They like blowing you up. Yep.
That's true.
They like knowing that they sunk your ship. And then you can work on irregular past tense, too.
I love that. Okay, so what you would see is some disfluencies. What you would do is use this game as a vehicle of just something to talk about, which is what I love about speech and like creating goals.
Yes.
Is that like I want to make a goal that is going to target multiple things.
Right.
So we might as well work on a skill necessary, which like your skill could be like, what if this person, they have issues with syntax? So you're going to work on formulating a question.
Correct.
While simultaneously doing like that stretched syllable type of, and then it's like you need a script if you're going to do that type of practice, and that's the script.
It's fun because then obviously everything is the same. Do you have someone on? And then you change with the B12. Oh, that's a hit. That's a miss. And then the reasoning. Oh, okay, they have no one on the line of A. So I'm not going to ask A again.
Right.
And sometimes that's a little hard for our clients depending on their age and level. So I think it's a great activity, and I like that you're keeping the sentence consistent so you could really focus on the strategy.
Right.
Decrease that what is it, the mental load?
Yeah.
Right. What do I have to say now? Have it written for them. That will be the visual support.
Yeah.
So what's your goal about?
So my goal is going to be that
you tell me.
Deborah will answer comprehension questions in parentheses, main idea, detail, inference, and prediction about a given text read aloud to the student, given one visual cue, scoring 80% accuracy as measured by SLP data collected over 3 consecutive sessions quarterly.
Whoa.
So it's really just they're going to answer a variety of WH questions about something that was read to them. Now I'm going to choose an unconventional therapy approach, like, so obviously when you hear this, you think like, oh, I'm going to use a reading comprehension article and then ask them a bunch of questions, right?
Yeah. Is it going to be about like turtles or something like that?
It might be about turtles.
Yeah, I don't know why
the most common theme. Yeah, it could be about turtles. It could be a fiction or nonfiction text about turtles. You can ask them, who's the turtle? Where's the turtle? How'd they get there? Why are they there? What's their motivation? What's the main idea? Or let's say that the only time in which this individual fits into your schedule is math.
Okay.
So and maybe you can pull for math, or maybe you're pushing into math, but you still need to like work on math, right? We can ask a variety of WH questions regarding math. You can ask procedural questions, or you can create the whole thing about a word problem. So what I did this week was I created simple word problems like Maria had 12 cookies and Deborah ate 6 cookies. How many cookies?
How could you do that to all my cookies?
I only ate half. You had the same amount as me. Don't be greedy.
Wow, you are correct about that.
So I have like the unicorn popper guy.
Yes.
So the ball is in his mouth and you squeeze the belly. So I set up 4 numbers on the clamp clips standing up. I read them a short story, which was actually a word problem. And they had to answer how many cookies were left. So it was specifically how questions. And then they would have to answer in a complete sentence. So Maria has 6 cookies left. And then recalling that detail would be Maria and the cookies, right? So, and then they got to shoot down their answer.
Cool.
So we're targeting a variety of goals. It was very easy. All I had to purchase in this scenario was that popper guy, which I use frequently for other activities.
Yeah.
Or you could just answer a reading comprehension question. Hold on a second.
We're talking about reading comprehension.
I was just wondering what you want to eat for lunch and dinner and breakfast this week.
I'm a lucky gal. Today I came home and Mike was making me fresh squeezed orange juice.
Aw.
Yeah.
Mike, but did you know she ate half of my cookies? You know, what is up with that? Just kidding. She's rough.
I'm like, Oliver's barking. I grabbed him. He cried.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike is great. I would like some English muffins and eggs. Thanks, honey.
And she likes pickles too, Mike.
Oh, pickles.
That's an obvious answer.
Yeah, you can get cheese.
Yeah.
Sure.
She likes brie. Makes her romantic.
Yeah, I'm romantic because I like brie. That's for the future episodes.
I know. I was just going to say, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. We have a cheese-loaded interview coming up in the future SLPs wanted cheese episodes.
That wasn't my favorite cheese. I just chose it by default because my favorite cheese was not supplied.
Right, yes. Well, more on that later.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So I think that's a great way to incorporate math and reading comprehension and popping things and hand-eye coordination.
Yeah, it's motivating. Hand-eye coordination.
All while promoting stealing people's cookies.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yes. Well, I think that it promotes sharing.
Yes.
Which is caring, is what I've heard.
Correct.
So,
great.
It's neither here nor there.
Gotcha.
So what would you see? You would see an individual who is struggling to recall details that are presented auditorily. Mm-hmm. You would see an individual who is struggling to answer a variety of interrogatives, perhaps like higher language learning concepts such as like why and how questions as opposed to what questions. Mm-hmm. And then you would see somebody who has no other choice but to be taken from math, which is important, and you need to do math still. So what would you do? You would incorporate math into speech therapy by utilizing quantitative concepts.
I love that.
And then
that's great.
You would write that they answered how many questions, scoring 70% accuracy given 2 repetitions.
Nice. And maybe visual supports. Do they have the word problem written in front of them?
I didn't do that this week. No, I only read it to them. But I give them a whiteboard, and they had to use the strategy of like, so if I said 6 cookies, 6 pizzas, they had to draw 6 dots. They had to like take away. They had to cross off the amount.
Right.
They had to show their work because they get penalized on their exams if they don't show their work.
Right. Yes.
So
Math
that's what I did.
Yeah, I think that's so great of you. So
it's relating to their classwork, and it's also targeting their goals. So it is possible, people.
It is possible. You heard it here first. Cheers. We didn't really mention, but we're drinking butternut. What is it? Butternut, a Pinot Noir. It's a California wine.
Yeah.
And in our interview, Deb drinks wine as well. So this, you
also,
talk
it's
about
rebuttal. So this is a butter wine episode.
Great. Well, let's pause for a brief commercial break. This episode is brought to you by the Informed SLP. Great clinicians need great scientific research to inform their practice. But how can we know the research with so many articles and so little time? The Informed SLP makes it easy. Each month, their team of scientists and clinicians find the research for you. They explain it without the jargon, without the burden, just for SLPs, so you could spend less time reading and more time treating. Visit theinformedslp.com and enter coupon code Wine and Cheese for 20% off. Check out the show notes for more information. This episode is brought to you by Therapy Travelers, and Flavia is going to share 3 great reasons to work for Therapy Travelers.
All right. So one amazing reason is the company culture. You won't find that working for any other company that really, truly cares about their therapists and what they're doing, because we want to change kiddos' lives. 2 are benefits. A lot of people do not get wonderful benefits when they're working for agencies, and they're unaware that they actually can get those. So 401k, we match up to 4% starting day 1. We have a wonderful EAP program, which is all mental health based, and that's completely in the company. Medical, dental, vision, we do cover 75% of your premium. You get PTO, you get paid holidays, you get CU and reimbursement, sick time, a lot of those things you do not get when you're working for an agency. And the last thing is something called a relationship manager, which is a person that's there to be your advocate and to help you when you're on assignment. We don't just place you somewhere and forget about you. We have someone that's there to check on you, to be your main point of contact. They're also the main point of contact to the school district if you have any issues. So it's just a really unique agency to work for, and we love everybody that works with us. We're a big, happy family.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm inspired.
Thanks.
And now our interview with Deb and Stephen Groner.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of SLP's Wine and Cheese. I'm Deb, and today I'm joined with SLP Stephen Groner. Say hi, Stephen.
What is up? What's going on?
Not much. I'm super excited that you are here with your expertise to talk all about fluency and fluency disorders. Before we get to that, let's talk about what we're having to drink tonight.
Nice.
So, yeah, I decided to deviate from the regular routine, and I have Bailey's on the rocks in a champagne glass because I was just feeling like that was the mood I was in.
That sounds like the best thing for tonight right now.
Yeah, it's like chocolate milk.
Yeah, exactly. Just with a little, spice to it.
Yeah.
I am here just with water because
Nice.
I'm an old dad. But last time I had gin, so I guess
so you can spice it up too.
As you. Yeah.
Yeah. I just I was feeling like I didn't want cheese too, so it's like, let me get something a little dairy. So it's like my Bailey's is my
mix and match. I like
that. And we like to be cognitively flexible here at SLP's Wine and Cheese.
Right.
So
you need to stretch that, do some generative naming, getting
that's
some
right. Yeah. I don't like anything like too rigid. So
yeah.
Speaking of, stuttering therapy should not be too rigid, I don't think, right?
No, you have to be really flexible to make sure that you get as much good done as you can, because it's tough to treat. And that's coming from me as someone who stutters. So yes, we have to be light and quick on our feet, and yet also have a lot at hand that we can give and just try to make it all work.
Sounds good. So in the last episode, you sat down with Maria and you talked a bunch about assessment. And today we're going to focus primarily on treatment.
Treatment.
Woo! Before we get into that, though, I wanted to talk a little bit about like what should we know before we go. Lots of times people panic when they hear fluency, cluttering,
I
stuttering.
know. It's like, oh my gosh, my heart's gonna stop. I feel tight. Things are,
Yeah, they're
um,
freaking out.
closing in. I know. And that's it's tough because I don't think that it should be like that, because really there are so many ways and so many techniques that we can use to help people who stutter. Yes, there are some things that work best only at a very young age, or maybe we can only hope to resolve stuttering, below the age of 7. But there are so many things that we can always do at any age, as long as our client wants help, to help them to speak either more fluently, easily, or happily. So I think what I always keep in mind is that uh, that this will be a long haul. Fluency treatment, unless it's with very, very young kids and they just kind of sealing out quickly and they're great and they're done and it's bye-bye, it tends to be a longer road. So just knowing, hey, I have time here. Like, I don't have to cure them in one session. Like, we have time. Wow, that's kind of a load off. And knowing that, well, once you learn and know a lot of techniques, then you have a lot of tools in your tool bag that you can pull out. And so knowing that there's a lot that you can fall back on, that might help, or that could help more, or that you could try here, or that you could hold off and wait until then, knowing that there's a lot to kind of choose from really helps me as well. And then to just know, like, even just to sit in the same room with someone who stutters and say the word stuttering and not freak out, and talk about it like it's, you know, just like it's, any other hard thing, like a scraped knee or an F on a test. Just to sit there with them in that space, in that air, say the word stuttering, look at them in the eye and say, I am not scared of it. Yes, it
Right.
can be a scary thing, but I am not scared of it. I'm not scared of you. Like, we don't have to be scared here, and we can work to figure something out that can help you, I think, is all that you really have to have when you walk into the therapy room.
And you also really can only do that because everything, especially with fluency, from my perspective, is highly individualized. And you
Yes.
are not a psychic, regardless of
No.
all of the training.
No.
So you have no idea how this person feels, how they're going to present.
What they need, what they want
Yeah.
most, which way to, that they want to go, what they're gonna latch onto. Yeah, you have no way of knowing, so don't beat yourself up if you don't.
Yeah, and I think that the best thing that you can do is just tell yourself is I'm just going to go in there and be there for that person. And
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
anything, I'm just going to, for the first couple sessions, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to
I
allow
will
this
not.
person to speak freely to me without me stepping in and trying to correct them or trying
Yeah.
to label their speech or
Yeah.
anything. Just
Yeah.
how do they want to be? How do they feel comfortable? What do they want to
Exactly.
talk about?
Yeah.
That's it. And then after a little bit, then I'll be like, okay, so here's what I'm noticing. Do you want me to tell you maybe about this strategy I can give you so that if you're feeling like you're having a hard time, you can get yourself out with this?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what we're there for. We are there to make them feel safe, make them feel whole, and then say, look, I have all of this knowledge. What do you want to use? And then just work with them as they find out, well, what is the way that I am going to speak from here on out? Or just trying to get them more to a place where they can make their thoughts known as easily as they can. And I would never correct you for saying that you are going to sit there and be present for them and let them just talk, which can be so hard for those of us who stutter. I think that's a great way to start for the first few sessions. So
Right.
I am right there with you.
And I feel like no matter who you're with, as long as you enter with that mindset, you can't be doing
You
anything
can't
wrong.
exactly. You can't mess things up, you know?
Mm-mm. Yeah. I did have somebody come supervise me once and I had a third grader who, he had an acquired stutter. It didn't start until a little bit later. He
Okay.
was hit by a car, and
Okay. All
then
right. Yeah.
he ended up having a
Common.
stutter after in his
Yeah.
recovery. Um, But this kid loved to talk to me. When he came to speech, he was talking, talking, talking. And yeah, he was highly disfluent, but I just sat there and I listened to him. And then we would do our strategies like with our pictured actions. Like that's how we would describe the pictured actions using the strategies.
Nice.
But then I had a supervisor come observe me and she was like, no, it's just too severe. You have to stop him, make him stop. And even though I
Ugh.
knew that person was my supervisor, I always had faith in myself. And I'm like, no one in their whole life should ever be told, no, stop. That's
Stop
awful.
talking. Shut
No.
up. Yeah. No way.
No.
No.
So don't believe things just because somebody says it to you. That would probably be my number one advice to anyone. Like,
That's
think
so
about if
good.
that
You're
was
right.
you. If somebody
Yeah.
was like, no, that's awful. And it was the first time that day you actually got to speak at length and like someone cut you off, that would really be
That would be
hurtful.
terrible. Yeah. So keep that in mind as you listen to all the things that I'm about to tell you. So
Mm-hmm.
take it with a grain of salt.
So then, yeah, let's get into that. We know
Nice.
our intention, and our intention when we're going in is just to make this person the most successful and comfortable communicator possible, and being able to represent themselves and their voice and their ideas. So
Yeah.
let's start from the youngest group possible. Now, you
All right.
already talked about
Cool
how
age.
young is too young.
Right. Yeah.
So we
Last time.
established that, and now we have a preschooler who does require therapy. Where do we begin?
Yeah. Great. So say that they're 4. They come in. They've been stuttering for a year and a half, and you're gonna start some therapy. What do you do? So the first 2 things that I teach, I don't teach to the kid at all. I teach it to their parents. So the first one is the slowed down speech technique for parents, where they slow down their speech to about 75%, or they can add more. So that sort of sounds like this, or you can add more pauses in and hold them for just a beat more to
This is
add
just a lesson
more.
in mindfulness.
Well, right, exactly. Or they can just slow and stretch out their speech at the very start of a sentence, which tends to be where those of us who stutter have the most trouble. So that can sort of model for us what a smoother way of speaking is. And then fourth and finally, they can reflect their child's speech back to them at a slower pace. So their kid says, "Hey, mom, I was at school and we learned about dragons and it was so fun. And there was a knight and he slayed him." Da 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 da. And then they say, "Oh, so you were at school and you learned about dragons, and there was a knight that slayed one." So just there are a lot of ways that you can that you can start to build slower speech into the parent speech, and all that does is help model for the child what a slower, smoother pace of speech is like, and adds more time in for that child to be able to speak, and kind of turning down that speed can help them to be more fluent. So that's always the first one that I do. then I teach parents how to reduce the demands that they put on their child. So of course, we all know these, but letting their child take the lead in what gets talked about or what gets played with, not finishing their sentences for them, making more comments instead of kind of peppering them with questions. And if and when they do ask questions, making them closed questions, that can be answered with either a yes, no, or a very simple phrase instead of kind of a very big,
Like, how do you wash your hands?
exactly. Or, how was school? Well, that's,
Right.
hard. Well, it was good, but we also, did you have fun at school today? Yes, mom. That just kind of takes a lot of the tension out of the conversation. And really, it just comes down to kind of showing parents how to make everything that their child says to them feel like the most important thing in the whole wide world to them in that moment. How do you show children that what they say has weight and that they have time to say it? So even just small tweaks like that have been shown to greatly increase fluency. So those are always the first two things that I do.
Right.
Then,
Because I remember learning that stuttering, obviously it's not an anxiety disorder, but it is something made
not
much
at the
worse.
start. Exactly. So not at the start, but after years and years of it being hard to say your name or hard to raise your hand in class or hard to, order food. Yes, that is so stressful. And so that can make it so much worse, but it's not the cause. It's not the root cause. We're still not sure what the cause is. And
it's just made so much more worse by worrying.
Yes.
So alleviating the tension and removing those demands and slowing things down
can make a lot more space for fluent speech. And that's what we want for kids who are beneath the age of 7. Like we know that at that young age, their brains are still plastic enough that we can help them to resolve their stuttering and they can go on and speak fluently for the rest of their lives. So that is a top goal. I mean, that's what we would like at that age. So the third thing that I teach preschool children is called Syllable Time speech or beat speech. And what it is the breaking up of words into their syllables with a brief pause after each one, but still at a pretty normal pace and with pretty normal inflection. So
hold on one second. So I love that. And this sounds like so many people always write to me, how do you do things in group therapy with people with different goals? This
oh my gosh, this is like
for
perfect.
Somebody with fluency, but then anybody with a phonological issue, you're segmenting words right now.
It's awesome, right? So
you're increasing their phonemic awareness.
Yeah, exactly. And that is so great. And I think that this is a technique that is newer. It really there's a great paper for the preschool population. It's Travskovsky 2011. So it's a pretty new treatment that we don't all know about. But what that beat does is simply help to induce fluent speech with that deep kind of cadence. And so if you can get a preschool child to practice that for about 5 minutes a day, for about 5 minutes 5-ish times per day, which sounds like a lot. So, 25 minutes a day for 9 to 12 months, it's been found to reduce stuttering by up to 96%. So, is it hard to do 5 sessions of 5 minutes of syllable time speech each day? Yeah, sure. But that has been found to help to kind of resolve stuttering in that very young population. So I like that one as well.
That sounds good. I mean, and also like to make it more functional, like, or easier to get done, just came to mind, like, what if you had sort of like poems or mantras that you said at different transitions throughout the day?
Perfect. Yeah.
Like, I'm getting
Build it into your day. My
ready
socks
to
on. Yeah, exactly.
There we go.
First we do socks, then we do shoes, and then we do our jackets. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Or
Now it's lunchtime. Where's my lunchbox?
exactly. Or, whenever you read books with your kids, which should be all day long, right? Or, even if it's like, just at the end of the day, just read one, or, have them look at pictures and describe what they're seeing using syllable time speech. So there are ways to work it in, and it's been found to help. So
so narrate your routine or talk about poems or something like that.
Exactly.
Or and anyone can come up with that. That's a great strategy. I'm gonna start using with everybody
so
who doesn't stutter.
so that's huge. And then fourth and finally, there is the lid comb program, which you have to be trained in to call it by that name, or if you're not trained in it, you can call it the response contingencies approach. And what it is basically is you give verbal feedback to children about their speech. Now, there are a few different ways and there are a few different kinds of feedback that you can give. So you give feedback either for fluent speech or for disfluent speech, and you should give feedback on fluent speech 5 times before you give feedback on disfluent speech. So most of the feedback that the child should be getting verbally should be about their fluent speech, not about their disfluent speech.
I really like that explanation.
That's right.
I feel like on this show, most often, I'm always saying how I don't like when people rate individual speech as bumpy or smooth or thumbs up and thumbs down.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I don't ever point out bumpiness, but I more so try not to, because I just feel like often people say I'm too loud and I speak too fast and too much. And I am 31 and it hurts
you hate
my
hearing
feelings.
that. Yeah. No one likes to be told that their speech is wrong or bad. I mean, sometimes it can help to show a child kind of how they sound, so that
discrimination task.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, just to say, oh, stop, that was bad. Like, no one wants to hear that about their speech. So that's huge. Like, so you should praise or acknowledge or ask the child to self-rate when their speech was fluent. So you can say, oh man, that was so smooth. Wow. Or you can say, hey, was that smooth? Or you can just say, night, or you can say, no bumps there, something like that. And you should give 5 of those kinds of responses before you pivot and either ask a child, was that bumpy? And they can say yes or no. Or you can ask them to try it again smoothly, but really you should do that only once for every 5 times that you praise or point out fluent speech. I think that's key. And that too has been found to help young preschool children to resolve their stuttering. So there can be some camps who either love Lidcomb and that's all that they do, or they hate Lidcomb and they they would never tell a child to re-say what they just said smoothly. But to the best of the evidence, it's been found to help children. So why would you not have it as part of your quiver that you could draw from?
Well, I think the 5-to-1 thing in general is just great. It's just that's just a nice thing to keep in your own like clinician toolbox in your brain.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's actually been found, I think, even for like those of us adults, like when we're at work, I think that same ratio of feedback has been found to be the best. So like it's best if our like boss gives us 5 compliments on our work before they point out one place where we could or should improve. So there's like something there about the fact that we have to hear 5 good things before we can take in one thing that we could improve, or maybe that's not the best.
Because humans are very sensitive.
Yes. Oh my goodness. We have very soft skin, try as we might to have thick ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you have a new client that just started on your caseload. They're in 3rd grade and they have a moderate to severe stutter that they already came to you with. What can you do?
Well, there is so much that you can do. And it's gonna come down to their age and their level of maturity as to what you can do, because school age is sort of that kind of gray age where you can use some more advanced techniques for some kids, and then for other kids you have to keep things nice and simple, and there can be a lot of variation based on age, yes, but also just kind of based on how much that they know about their speech, and how hard that they want to work on it, and how much they care about it, which I know can be tough in the school age population. So of course, the first thing that I do is teach them about the speech mechanism and how we make speech, and then that we can play with our speech. So I have them play this game where we go back and forth saying things, but we have a spinner that has fast, slow, quiet, loud, high, low, smooth, and bumpy, and we spin, and whatever it lands on, that's how we have to say whatever we're going to say next. So we can say, that. I can speak fast, or I can speak slow, or I can speak quiet, or I can speak loud, or I can speak high, or or low, or I can speak smooth, or bump. It just like shows them that they can change and kind of play with how their speech comes out. And that's sort of a great way to set the stage for what all you might teach next.
I really like that.
That's always fun. Yeah.
Yeah, because also, so here we go. Once again, you just provided 2 ideas that no clinician is starting off a therapy session with, I'm going to fix you. Let's get to work.
No.
So you're demonstrating, you probably have visuals of the mechanism and examples of how you produce sounds.
Coloring, yeah, and they like label. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and now you're just playing a game. So like, what is this? Maybe 4 weeks, 3 weeks later. I don't know how much long later, but like then
3 weeks. Now let's talk about. Yeah, I don't know.
And I like your spinner game, and I'm wondering, do you ever do it with like emotions or paralinguistic features of language? Like I can say it mad, or I can say it scared, or
that is you know what? I should
could say it like a question.
That would be that's actually great, and I am now gonna add that to my.
Good, yeah, that'd be fun. I like Like if
I
you just
hear
make them all like a question and things that aren't questions, because they'll be like, what? That doesn't-
exactly. I mean that's fun, right? And
Yeah.
so that does two things. It shows them that speech can be fun, but also shows them that they can change how their speech gets made. Like their brains can tell their speech to come out a different way, which is basically what you have to do in stuttering therapy. So yeah, that kills two birds with
Yeah,
one.
that sounds fun. And then once again, you're not going in there stopping anyone, rating anybody. You
Ooh,
already have a plan for your first 3 weeks there.
exactly, right? And that's nice because then you get to learn them. You know, that gives you 3 weeks to hear them talk, to laugh with them, to play with them, and that is gonna help you learn more about how they talk and help them to trust you so that they'll actually talk about their stuttering and kind of what they want to do. So next actually is syllable time speech or beat speech has been found to help school age children up to age 12 to have more fluent speech. Not quite at the same rate as as preschool children. It's been found if they do it for 5 minutes 5 times a day for 12 months, it can lower stuttering on average about 50, I think it's 54% or 57%. So not quite at the same rate as in younger children, but uh, their brains are still plastic enough before the age of 12 that can help them. So honestly, I like to just start and end my sessions with that. You know, we'll do maybe a few minutes of it to kind of start and kind of warm up, and then we'll do a few minutes to end. Just because it's been found to help their speech be more fluent even when they're not. And this is key, is that they are not meant to speak like this when they're out of the therapy room. it's
Right.
it's not meant to be a new way of speaking. It's sort of meant to be like speech practice.
Right.
And
Like you're
but
increasing your mindfulness that you're able to control your speech mechanism.
exactly
It's
right.
like choir practice. Like,
Yeah,
can you hit that high note with, can you hold your breath? Can you do all these things?
exactly. And it's been found to then help them be more fluent even when they don't use that technique, which is
Right.
what we want, right? So I like to just start with that. It's, you know, it's fun and it really does help someone who is extremely disfluent to be more fluent. I mean, it really helps to induce fluency, and that can be fun too, to see someone, you know, a kid who's 8 or 9 and stutters, you know, pretty severely, to say, hey, let's say your name and where you're from and the names of all of your siblings, and they can say them for the first time. I mean,
Yeah. They're like, what a trick. And
it's
no
like,
one
wow,
probably
like
even showed
that's
them that.
cool, right?
Yeah.
So it's not meant to be a like new way of speech, but it is great speech practice, and it's been found to help up to age 12. So I like to kind of pull that one out next and just kind of work that into our sessions.
I love it. It just sounds also, I'm always an advocate for using poems in speech. I do it
I
all the
know you do it.
time.
Yeah,
And I feel like
you.
it's a modified version of what you're saying, because I wasn't a disfluent child, but I am very like in tune with how I felt. And
Mhm.
I would say like verbally I blanked a lot, and I don't know if it was like nervousness, but if somebody wanted me to say something, I'd be like, I don't know what you want from me. And I would not
Yeah,
really know what, so I wouldn't be stuttering, but I wouldn't be like fluent or like really
either.
verbose. But then when
Yes,
I was a
which is odd
reader,
because now
yeah,
you're like one of the most verbose SLPs on the gram. So
I
that's
know. But I
where
think
did
it's
that?
because I started memorizing things and it made me more confident, and I slowed it down, and I liked poems and rhythm and beat and rhyme and things like that. Because as a
Yeah,
reader, I was completely awful. Like I couldn't read anything without being so disfluent in front of my whole class. But I don't think
right.
I was
Which is not fun at
stuttering.
all. Trust me, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how it helped me. So it's why I still do it with kids.
Well, and that's I mean, really, like, that is great. It makes me think of the scene in The Notebook, which I've seen more than once, where what's his face says, or his like dad
What's
says
his
that
face?
his sister,
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Gosling.
Oh no, Ryan
Come on.
Gosling. Oops, wrong.
Although they are both monks. Let's just be serious about
Right,
that.
exactly.
Anyhow, but yeah, where his dad says that he had a very bad stutter as a kid, and that he made him read, poetry, and that helped, right? Because there's that rhythm. Now, I'm not saying that if you make your kids read poetry, that
Right.
that will help. I have not seen any research that is the case. But if you make them read poems using syllable time speech, now that has been found to help.
Right. Makes sense. Okay.
So
Then do we have more for elementary, or are we moving on
yes.
to the older guys? Okay.
Yeah. So when now we sort of come to a crossroads. So as I'm sure that there are sort of two camps when it comes to fluency treatment. So we have stuttering modification and fluency shaping techniques, and
Right.
they are both similar, but they're both very different. And they are most different when it comes to what their goal is and how much that they should be used. So fluency shaping, the goal is to speak in a certain way as to not stutter. And you should be doing those things at all times whenever you speak so that you won't stutter. Whereas stuttering modification, the goal is not to not stutter, but to stutter more easily and not quite as badly, so that you can keep your speech moving forward and get your thoughts out faster. And you are not meant to use those techniques unless you find yourself in a place of stuttering. So they're not meant to be used at all times.
Okay.
And honestly, both of them work. Like, both of them help us to not stutter. And that's, I think, a key point that I always kind of keep in mind. It's like every single technique that you've heard of or that you've been taught has somewhere helped someone to not stutter, right?
Right.
But every single technique does not always help everybody to not stutter. And
Right.
that's and so that's good to sort of keep in mind, of like, wow, I can try all of these out and see what sticks, and then we can just go with that. So with young children, especially beneath the age of, 12, but even, I guess, so I would start fluency shaping techniques with children age 9, if they're like really, if they are mature, and if they are really committed to wanting to speak more fluently, and I feel like that they can sort of handle it. But before that, I stick with stuttering modification techniques. And so those are things like cancellations, where once you've stuttered, you stop and you go back and you say it more smoothly, having let go of any and all tension that was built up in that place of articulation.
So you let go of that sound that you were holding on to.
Well, so a cancellation is at the end of a word that you have stuttered on. So let's say that I say, my name is Steven. Steven. You go back and you say the whole word, you let go of tension, and you say the whole word again, stretching out where that problem sound was. Then you can sort of move it up to a slide, where when you're actually in the moment of stuttering, but before you've gotten to the end of the word, you pause, stop, let go of that tension and then stretch out that sound so that it comes out fluently. And then you can move up to preparatory sets where as you're speaking, you see a word coming up and you let go of that sound. In that case, it was that W, that W, and you stretch it out. And those are meant to be used only when you're stuttering and not at all times. You can also teach light bounces where you teach a lighter way of stuttering so that it takes less time. You get through it faster and you can move on faster. So that might kind of sound like this, where my thoughts and speech are actually coming out fast because my stuttering is so brief. So
Okay.
it kind of helps you to have a very quick, fast, brief, light stutter, even though you're still stuttering, but it doesn't turn into a very long, very deep,
Right.
very hard, stutter.
So then do you
So
wait for these things to happen naturally and then you target it, or do you use like target sentences and work on the tapping, like something like that?
So honestly, what I use client-centered stimuli. We start off with their name, first name, middle name, last name, where they were born, siblings, what their birthday is, but like we'll just do month and then date and then year, and then we'll do like phrases, which will be month, date, and year all at once, or first and last name all at once, because really that's what we have a hard time with. Someone asks us what our name is and we can't say it, or someone asks us what our birthday is and we can't say it. So why not work on that in therapy instead of, the cat jumped on the fence and had a
Right.
nice talk with the sheep, So
Go
anyhow,
right
I
to the
have
things that are common problems.
exactly. And of course, we start off short and small, and then you just build up from there. So that's what I use. So yeah, so I'll have them say all of those stimuli, and then if and when they break down,
Okay, if
we
and when,
talk
that's
about
what is important. Okay.
exactly. So
Okay.
if and when they break down, then we talk about, okay, so where did you get stuck and what did that feel like? You- can you show me in your mouth? Can you, and then we work on them being able to sort of re-say it with some kind of technique. And I like to keep tabs on how much they like each technique as we learn them. And then I sort of kind of make a list of, oh, they like A and B, but not C, and some of D. And then we kind of work on those.
So you take like an interest inventory in terms of
Yeah,
fluency.
fluency
Okay.
technique.
Yeah.
So those are, I didn't cover some other techniques, but I know that we're short on time, so we can always do them next time
Yeah,
too.
we're gonna have to put that in our part 3.
You're
But
gonna have to
yeah,
come
this
back
was
to hear the
so
rest.
helpful. I love everything that you brought up. I'm gonna put into action some of these things that I feel are helpful to my
Do it.
clients. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna add your stuff to my
Okay.
spinner game, saying it mad, saying it happy, saying it sad.
Like a
That's
question too. I do that
yes,
a lot.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like a question. I love it.
Mhm. Okay, great. So before we head out, next time we're going to talk a little bit more about some more fluency shaping and stuttering modification, as well as how to apply this to adolescents and adults.
Yeah.
But before we leave, do you have any like quotes or mantras or anything that you kind of like tell yourself to get through the day, or something you
Yeah.
remember when you were in school?
Yeah, so something that I learned recently, that has to do with prayer. So whether I don't know if you talk to God or you talk to some kind of higher power, whatever. If you talk to the universe, but I tend to have hard days when it comes to my speech, and so I find myself praying, and I was taught, pray in single words. Just say one. You don't have to like say huge long prayers. So my two prayers are thank you and help. So if I'm at a hard place in my day, I'll say thank you, help, thank you, help, thank you, help, and that's it. And then I like move on. So I'm grateful, and then I ask for help, but that's it. It's short and sweet, and it somehow, keeps me on track and gets me to the end of the day with my head still on my shoulders. So that's been huge for me.
I love that. Thank you, help.
Thank you,
And
help.
thank you, Stephen, and help me learn more about fluency
Next time.
next time. You can check out Stephen on Instagram at slp.steven. And you are with a PH.
Yes, I am.
And
Yes.
an EN.
Yes, thank you.
There's
That
so
is
many
the
variations.
best
You
way
guys
to
are
go. I
tricky.
know, we're so tricky. We're so mean. We do it just to mess with you.
So check him out on Instagram. He's got a ton of resources on his website, all related to fluency. And check out his episode part 1, and then next time part 3.
Part 3. All right. Well, thanks, Deb.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
That's our show, everyone. Thanks for listening to SLP's Wine and Cheese. We have new episodes every week, so be sure to subscribe. Also, we'd appreciate if you'd like and review us on iTunes. If you love the show and want more bonus content, check us out at Patreon, patreon.com/SLP's Wine and Cheese.